This is Conversations with Women in Sales, an award-winning podcast created by Barbara Giamanco, who hosted the first 67 episodes. Listen to interviews with amazing women about their journeys in their sales careers, often discussing sales leadership tips, ideas, and strategies. We aim to inspire women to consider a sales career and for some women to grow into sales leadership. Men, we appreciate your allyship. And now, your host, Lori Richardson.
Big shout out to our official sponsor, Reprise, the leading full funnel, product-led growth platform. With Reprise, your sales team creates, presents, and shares product demos, perfectly customized for each step of your sales motion. Go to getreprise.com/womenInSales to try for free today. I'm here today with Elyse Archer, and Elyse is one of my colleagues with Salesforce, where we were fortunate to be listed as top sales influencers for 2021. And I'm just meeting Elyse for the first time, so it's really great. And I'm so happy to meet with you, Elyse. I'd love for you to introduce yourself a little bit about what you're doing.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Lori. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, in the pre-chat, we discovered we have so much in common, right? Even down to the brand name and term that we use. So usually when I introduce myself on a podcast, I say, hey, I'm Elyse. I'm the founder and CEO of She Sells. And, it was fun in the pre-chat to kind of talk about the movement you've also created with that term. And so I know your listeners are probably very familiar with the work you do in that space. And I think one of the things that I love that is part of our brand, and I can also tell is just part of your heart, is that abundance mindset, right? And it's shifting into both financial abundance and then also out of that competitive mode that's so common in sales, but more into creativity and collaboration, which I think are not just for women, but for everyone, our most powerful states where we create the results we want faster and easier. So yeah, outside of that, I'm a mom to a little boy, a 2-year-old little boy. I'm a wife and dog lover. So I'm having fun over here.
Before I got into sales, I worked with 2-year-olds. I was a preschool teacher. I had 12 2-year-olds in one room with 2 assistants. And I realized that would help me do any other career in the future.
Oh my gosh, no kidding.
Mental, emotional, physical, it's probably the hardest job I ever did because you're helping develop lives,
Yes.
It's really important stuff.
I can only imagine. I can barely handle one. I can't imagine 12. But to your point, it's one of my girlfriends she's an entrepreneur. She's in sales. She said this to me before I had Jack. She was like, being a mom will break you down and rebuild you in all the best ways. And it has 100% done that. It's been the most challenging thing, but also the most wonderful thing, as I'm sure every mom out there knows.
Yeah. And it's the funniest thing because it's just so hard to explain to anyone. You can't explain what it will feel like or be like. It's just, everyone says it's so different. I never envisioned that.
Oh yeah.
And I was the mom at 18.
Were you? I can't imagine. I mean, good for you.
Can't even, I look back and you just think, what were you thinking? Like, I had no business doing that, but just because of my circumstances, I got married, turned out to be a bad idea. So I got divorced at 19 and I raised my son on my own. And, I just got him really busy in sports when he got older. That was my whole strategy. Luckily, I had a degree in early childhood education and I knew a little bit about kids, but I was the youngest. I wasn't the oldest, so I didn't take care of kids. I just babysat. And I really got thrown into it. And, you do the best you can. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Such a testament to women's strength. And I always, I had my son when I was 34. So almost twice the age, right? That you were. And it was challenging for me then. I can't imagine at 18. That's incredible.
It never hit me until my son was 18 and I was sitting with him and he went to boarding school on scholarship, but he was sitting with his other sports buddies. They were sitting around and I said, can you imagine that I was your age when I had you? And they were all just horrified, No, that's impossible. Yeah.
Sure.
But it made me a young grandma, which is really great. So
I mean, that will never happen for me, but that is like a secret life goal to be able to be a young grandma and get it done quickly. Right.
so well, this isn't how we normally start our sessions, but it's wonderful getting to know you. And what's interesting was that you received a journalism degree at UNC Chapel Hill, great school, and so I wonder, did you think you were going to be a journalist when you first left school?
Yeah. Well, not by the time I left school. So I went to school with that intention, but I have this very clear memory of sitting in my journalism class and I went for news ed. So I thought I was going to be a newspaper writer. That also makes me sound pretty old, but yeah, I thought I was going to be a newspaper writer.
It was big back then, right?
Yeah, I guess it was. But so my professor was talking about what you'll make as a writer. And he told us, and I really didn't have much of a sense of the world yet because I was a different 18 than you. I was a little bit, I was still kind of figuring out my way, but I remember he said the number and I was like, I don't know, but that doesn't sound like a lot. And so I had all along, I always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit. I would say I started my sales career. This is embarrassing, but like very early, probably when I was like 3 or 4. I don't know if you remember like the little McDonald's Happy Meal toys that you get. And so my sister and I had a ton of them. And I remember like gathering them all up one day and I took hers and I didn't tell her. So this is the part that's not great on my conscience. But I started selling them door to door and I actually turned a profit. And I thought, this is a good industry.
Great.
So even when I was in college, I was working in sales. I was doing different things, gym membership sales. I was a personal trainer. I was promoting different brands and doing all of that. So I was still making money in sales along the way in college. And I just kind of remember I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I mean, I could be way more successful going out and doing stuff on my own and having control of my own financial destiny than pursuing this writing degree. So kind of got the degree, checked the box, but didn't look back after that.
And then you went to AT&T, right?
I did, which will also make me sound old because I sold Yellow Pages there.
I remember those days. Okay.
It was a booming industry. I mean, I came in towards the end, so it was not as booming, but it was where a lot of people had, built big careers. And for a while, it was the place to advertise, right? If you were going to advertise. So yeah, I went into there, but that was also the very start of search and SEO and social media marketing. So I really leaned into that and got pretty successful selling that early on.
Yeah. And so you felt that you knew you were good at it, right?
I did. I did. And I was good at it. And there's a part of it where there was a lot of struggle, which I'm happy to go into at any point that you want to.
Well, I'm curious, did you have any entrepreneurs in your family or anyone that sold real estate, or where'd you get that from that I could sell stuff?
It's a great question. I think I've always had an intense desire for freedom. And yeah. My dad was an entrepreneur, but he was also just working a lot. So it's not like I really got brought up in the company or being taught how to do things. He was a tech entrepreneur. But so I think it was always, I had this strong desire to be able to create my own destiny. And I loved connecting with people. And I don't know, I'm just hard headed. So I like to have control over my future in a lot of ways. And so I think that was part of what inspired it early on.
And then you didn't wait too many years. Like a lot of people have a long career and then they'll go into entrepreneurship and start a business. You started your coaching business, right? After not too many years.
Yeah. It was, oh gosh. I'm trying to do it math here. It was probably about 7 years in, I would say. And it was inspired by a combination of things. But I will say one of the things that really inspired it, which no doubt you can relate to, was I'd found success in corporate sales, but I always felt like I had to be someone other than who I was in order to be successful.
Yeah.
And I was working all hours, like literally getting up at 2 a.m, just hustling all day. And so much of it that I didn't know at the time was really about trying to validate my self-worth with my commission.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like on the outside, I looked like I was doing really well and I would be, top of the leaderboard and all that. But on the inside, I was struggling with anxiety, panic attacks. I had an eating disorder I wasn't telling anybody about. And so it was like this really, and I was also in a marriage that was really not, there was a lot of toxicity in that too. And so it just reached this point where it was like, there's got to be a different way. Like there has to be a different way. And so that really started my personal development journey. And I started learning, more about neuroscience, the subconscious mind, how to rewire my beliefs and really how to like fall in love with myself again. Cause I'd been in so much conflict with myself and started seeing a lot more sales success as I did that. And I thought, gosh, I got to teach other people how to do this. And it inspired me to say, hey, I'm going to start coaching and go out on my own and doing that. And I don't recommend this for most people, but I had one client who had paid me $300 to review a presentation. And I was like, it's proof of concept. I've got a business. And I quit corporate. I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So very much a burn the ships, you got to succeed type of moment.
Right. I did the same.
It's you. So okay. Most people.
Well, I was down. I was down my last corporate job, and I didn't want to be a salesperson again. I'd done it for over 15 years, and quarter after quarter, starting at zero, and I had done a couple other things. I really wanted to help companies. So luckily, the company that downsized me because they were being acquired, so they were getting rid of big salaries and. Fortunately, I had one of those, which is great.
Wow.
But they became my first client, and they agreed to be my first client, and that was really wonderful. And I still keep in touch with them years later. Many of them. In fact, I'm going back to the Boston area next week, and I'm going to see some of these folks I worked with 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And that's the testament to building a relationship. I mean, that's amazing to still keep in touch with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So in particular, women need help understanding that we sell differently than men on the grind I say that sales was built by men, business was built by men. We can't just be forced into it. Like you said, you were kind of pushed in. I did the same thing. I wore the suits, padded shoulders, back bed.
Yeah.
And just tried to emulate the boys, but women bring their own skills and traits to whatever we do, including professional selling.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what have you learned in working with women and helping them sell more?
Oh my gosh. I mean, to me, and this is where I do a lot of inner work with my clients. I used to really be more on the strategic side, but I think my heart now, because it's made the biggest difference in my life, is a lot on the inner work. So I would say there's 3 core areas that I focus on with women specifically. And so one is rewiring your belief system. So subconscious beliefs account for 95 to 98% of our results. And almost every woman I work with has some sort of a program running about it's not safe to be visible, it's not safe to speak up, or it's not safe to receive, right? I've got this incredible client who she had a kind of traumatic experience growing up. And I'll share what she came to me with, and then I'll share the experience. She came to me and she was like, I have a hard time asking for money from clients and I can't figure out why. And we talked a little bit about growing up, what happened for her. And she had a stepdad growing up who was just this like, not a nice guy. And she needed to ask for money when she was a teenager to go on a school trip. And she had to like walk outside, and he's outside in the backyard and he's smoking and he's drinking and he's got a bunch of his buddies hanging out with him. And she doesn't want to ask him for money because she knows that he's going to make some snide remark or say something rude. But she's like, I have to get this money to go on this school trip. So she goes up to him and asks if she can have the money. And he says, you can have it if I can backhand you. And in that moment, she was like, I need the money. Okay. So literally in front of all of his friends, he slaps her and hands her the money. And they're all laughing and joking. And it's like, and this woman's in her 50s now, right? And she never understood. And I don't love telling that story, but I think it's an example of a lot of times we don't realize where these things come from.
Right.
And every woman has a different story, right? So it's not about making one story more challenging or not, but for her, she had never realized that was the block in receiving money from clients.
Mm.
And so I think it's like, we think we need another strategy. We think we need a better script. And to me, those things they're important. But if you've got a deep rooted belief system that you're going to be in pain if you receive money, you're going to be embarrassed. People are upset to give you money. You're not going to do it. So that's one, is we look at how do we rewire your belief system to support the success you want. The second piece is integrating, and this is where I'm going to use some terms that sometimes, especially when I'm speaking with corporate audience, it's like, we got to just be open-minded here. Integrating masculine and feminine energy. And I don't know how much you talk about this on the show or in your work, but what I find is for most women, we are very much in our masculine, especially if we're coming from a corporate background. And so how do we integrate both of those for success? And then the third is healing relationship with money. Money has an energy to it. And I've spent years of my life struggling with scarcity mindset, always making money, but having fear that it would go away, yada, yada. And I realized I had a lot of blocks around money because I didn't really understand what it was. I didn't understand how to build my own relationship with it. And I think in sales, we're dealing with it all the time, but we don't stop to look at what's my relationship with it. And do I feel abundant? Do I feel worthy of receiving more? Because your income will never exceed your level of self-worth. So it's those three core areas, and I kind of mix it up depending on, who I'm working with, but those are the three that I see really move the needle most for women in sales.
Yeah. Yeah. And I found, for the longest time, women would say, sales is sleazy, it's, scammy, there were a lot of negatives because of movies and different things that in society. I've also run into a lot of women who are coming up, just out of school, perhaps, that have never even heard of a career called business to business selling. That there is this career that you can do, because I think the guys hid it for a long time. It's a guy thing, and they got their buddies to come in and work with them as colleagues. And we've had a shortage of women in sales roles in almost every industry it forever, for the longest time, and it's still not there. And for women in sales leadership, it's even lower, of course. So just knowing that there's this career that actually is a helping profession that actually will help buyers buy and will help them improve their company or their life or them personally or their team. And that, this is a really good thing to do, that it's not a bad thing. That's one of the things I think is an important lesson for people to learn.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah. And it's like the important work that you're doing and in this community that helps reframe the perspective on it. And I think we've come a long way, and I still hear stories every day. I'm like, oh, we got a long ways to go, but I think the most important thing that I've seen and that in my own life has made the biggest difference is realizing, like, regardless of what needs to change in the industry, no one is going to give you permission to step into what you want to do. You have to be the person to give yourself permission, because so often we're the ones holding ourselves back.
Yes.
Right. And again, it's like, it's not to say that there's not things that can be improved. There 100% are. There's 100% things that can be improved in the industry and with leadership. But often we are the ones creating our own self-imposed box through limiting beliefs, through fear of what happens if I step out. And so it's like, no one is coming to give you permission. You've got to do it. You got to do it yourself.
Right.
So,
And when I work with entrepreneurs, it was like, well, I can sell other people's things. I just can't sell myself. That was something I heard a lot. And in business, it's just, being confident and not having imposter syndrome. There's just so many labels that half the time I agree with you that part of it is us having to say, I am saying supportive beliefs in my head. I'm not saying unsupportive things to push me away from my goals. I'm supporting myself. And then there's the environment that also needs to improve. So it's almost like a cycle. It's a circle, that women can't just fix themselves and then everything will be better in business and we'll have all these women in sales. And yet, as a sales professional, I know that I always am working to be better.
Yeah.
And I'm always working to do better. So I try to be careful for me, not to let women think that I think they need to fix themselves.
I love that.
But we do need,
Yeah.
we need to think about, can I speak more concisely? Can I say something or present myself in a way that gets the attention of the decision maker in a way that we can move this opportunity forward? There are a lot of things that are on us. And then there's also the environment that needs to make way for us to be successful too.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. I totally agree. And I love that you say it's not about fixing ourselves, because we can go down that rabbit hole for the rest of our lives, right?
Yeah.
As can men. Like we've all got new levels to go to. So
But
so
it spends all the money in all the programs that are out there. I mean, it's predominantly women that are going to do one more program, one more certification, one more,
yeah. Yeah.
men are like, well, good enough, right?
I'm
You'd be lucky to have me.
Which, you know what? Like to me, I love parts of that, because it's like, look, like we can emulate that in many ways, right? So I love that. Yeah.
I have a grandson. When he was younger, when he was about, I don't know, 4, maybe 3 or 4, and if he didn't want something, he'd say no, and he'd put his hand up like that.
I love that.
And he did this twirl, like, no. and so I use that sometimes. I do channel that. And sometimes, sometimes it's just no. It's just a hard no. And
Yep.
we don't need to go on and on with an explanation, right? It's just, nope.
It's a full sentence. It is a complete and full sentence. Yeah. Jack, our tutor, he does it too. He's like, no. Like the hard and
they're so good at that. And then it'll be why, right?
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm bracing myself. We're not quite there yet, but I know we're getting there very soon.
That's when you see the real sales skills develop.
I'm sure. I know. He's already doing the assumptive close where he's nodding his head yes while he asks me for something. How do you know this stuff? This is wild.
They're the best.
They are.
Yeah, that's great. Well, this has been so wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your podcast, because you have a long-running podcast. There aren't a lot of podcasts that are about sales that are hosted by women. So I commend you. And I, would love to tell our readers or listeners a little more about that.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And I'd love to have you on too. I think that would be really powerful. So I'd love to have you on. Yeah. The show is called She Sells Radio. And the way I position it is just so people understand it is like, if Abraham Hicks and Grant Cardone had a love child, this is what you would get. So it's kind of like a blend of sales, and I mix some spirituality in and feminine. And so it's this, to me, it's like,
sounds like Grant and Mark isn't me.
Yeah. So it's fun. People always come in and they're like, oh, I was coming in looking for sales tips, and I think I got some. I really got a lot of personal development. So it's great. And we've got a lot of solo episodes. We've also got a lot of great, just phenomenal interviews with other leaders in the sales field, other female sales professionals, leaders, entrepreneurs who are crushing it. But it's all about finding success in sales and elevating your income and your abundance, but doing it in a way that's in alignment with how you're truly wired, where it's not about trying to fit into another box. It's not about pushing harder, hustling more. It's really about how you come into alignment and own all of who you are and lean into that with your sales and your business process, you'll make way more. It'll be way easier. You'll be way more successful. So to me, it's like what I wish I heard and what I wish I knew when I was first in sales. And it's just something that I love talking about. So She Sells Radio. Yeah.
The whole thing about hustle culture. I mean, finally, it's come around to where the guys aren't pushing it. Some guys aren't. Some people still do. But a lot of the men have figured out that, hustle isn't what makes it happen. And I know as a single mom, when I started in sales, I didn't have the luxury to hustle. I had the luxury to learn how to work really smart and work in a certain amount of time, and then I'm gone. And that's it. And I am not going to hustle till I die, like some people talk about. You have time to rest when you're gone. I mean, anybody that has kids, family, relatives, other interests outside of your job, it's really important to learn about. I don't know if the word's balance, but it's about being able to do other parts of your life and to take care of the mental health piece.
Oh my gosh. It's so true. It's so true. And I think it's amazing when I love what you said about, looking at how can I work smart? And, I say this realizing I am blessed to have this. We have help at home. We have a nanny and a house manager, but she's gone right now. She's traveling. And so it's me and my husband, and he's studying full time for school right now. And so it's like we're splitting time right now, taking care of our little one. And then also I run my business and he studies. And so I've learned to divvy up my day where it's first half of the day is I'm momming, and then the second half is I'm working in a meetings. And I love it, Lori. Like, it's so liberating. It's so fun. And you realize how many things you used to do that don't matter and what actually moves the needle. So I just think that's part of the beauty of, as women, it's like we get to make our own rules, and we have to make our own rules too for how we achieve success.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, it's been so wonderful to have you here, Elyse, and let people know how they can get a hold of you. I would imagine through LinkedIn and to watch some of the sales influencer pieces and things that we're doing.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm at Elyse Archer on LinkedIn, on all social, and then ElyseArcher.com is a great way to connect as well.
Oh, fantastic. Well, keep us posted on anything new that's going on and any She Sells collaborations we can do. I'm looking forward to that. It's really been a pleasure to talk with you, and I'm excited to see what else is ahead for you.
Thank you so much, Lori. I appreciate it. The feeling is mutual.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Conversations with Women in Sales. You can find all of our episodes at womensalespros.com/podcast. Help us spread the word, and let's change the face of B2B sales.